play it all or nothing. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Poker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood.
Welcome to Takeover, the most underrated sports debate show on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe for bi-weekly content, and I'll explain that at the end of this episode. What are we talking about today, Josh?
Well, Cam, since we're not doing the intros and you already introduced who I am, we're talking about one specific thing, and it's possibly the most talked about thing in sports right now. Deshaun Watson, according to an independent judge, I believe Sue Robinson is her name, has been handed a 6-game suspension for the upcoming season due to the various civil lawsuits and criminal complaints that have been filed against him in the past year and a half by masseuse therapists. And we're here to just talk about the entire case and give our takes on if the suspension, the people involved, yada, 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 kind of all encompassing. So Cam's going to get us started. By all means, Cam, the floor is yours.
I know that everyone is aware, and I'm definitely aware of the horrors of sexual assault and the overall seriousness of it. Deshaun Watson himself, at this point, has become a victim of society and cancel culture by how the NFL is treating him at this point in time. Big corporations, whether it be NFL, the NBA, or corporations like ESPN, BET, have now become a place where if you're involved in a certain thing, they don't just want to just take you away or distract your image. They want to just destroy your entire image as well. I think that's the exact thing that's happening to Deshaun Watson right now. I think the NFL, by slapping this 6-game suspension on him, doesn't have to really do anything with Deshaun Watson, but it's for all the women out there that might be outraged if Deshaun Watson takes the field. I feel like that's more of the problem than the whole Deshaun Watson thing. And I find it really hilarious at this point that the NFL is going to do something like this, because the NFL hasn't cared about domestic violence because it happens so much in the NFL. They haven't cared about sexual abuse because it happens so much in the NFL. And I obviously go as far as saying that the NFL doesn't care about its own players, its black players as well, because look at how they're treating the coaches out there. Look at what they did to Brian Flores. Look at what they did to Colin Kaepernick. But we have Caucasian players out here every day. We had Riley Cooper saying the N-word on video camera, didn't get anything done. You had Ben Roethlisberger accused of rape twice, and then any suspension, he got a 4-game suspension instead of 6. And you have Deshaun Watson, who was accused by 22 women of sexual assault, but was found not guilty in a court of law. But you're charging him again. You're pinning him down again. I get they're trying to make an example, but I don't see where this is going. He already sat out an entire season. He already paid one of the biggest dividends you could pay. You're just trying to make the example out of Deshaun Watson when there's been multiple occasions of this happening over and over again. And the crazy thing is, after Ben Roethlisberger had all the accusations, the Monday Night Football crew was like, the quote unquote, Ben was immature at times. He made mistakes. That's what they said on national TV after Ben Roethlisberger was done with that. And it's just so crazy to see how this is looked at, how this is being judged. He already sat out a season. The additional 6 games to me is completely egregious. And I think, like I said, they're making an example of him. But the NFL has made so many mistakes at all courts. I think the NFL may be one of the worst leagues when it comes to handling decisions like this. The worst in the NBA, the worst in Major League Baseball. There is a reason that Roger Goodell gets booed every time he takes the stage on draft night. No other commissioner does, but Roger Goodell gets booed all the time. I think the NFL is completely making a laughing stock of himself, and sooner or later, this stuff is never going to end. So that's my whole take on Deshaun Watson.
All right, so as you alluded to in your take, many people think that Deshaun Watson should have gotten a longer suspension. The NFL themselves wanted to suspend him for a whole year. But when you look at Judge Robinson, and you look at her ruling and you look at the conclusion of her ruling, there's a whole bunch of things in the court documents that really stand out to me and make this thing kind of interesting to me. So first of all, the judge includes recent enforcement, which states punishment may not be imposed for violating a rule or standard that the employer has not enforced for a prolonged period. When management fails to take action against the infraction for several months or longer, employees are encouraged to believe that the policy or rule is no longer in effect. In such circumstances, imposing discipline is equivalent to applying a rule which the employee is unaware. So in case you guys are wondering, that was something I read from the actual court documents from the ruling and the conclusion. So the judge made a decision based off the precedent, and the standard that the NFL has set in prior cases. So, for example, if the NFL would have brought up examples of how they dealt with owners or people of a higher positioning, then maybe they would have had more ground to stand on in this case. The judge is basically saying, how can you expect me to pass off a certain punishment on Deshaun Watson when you don't even hold everyone, including owners, people of a higher positioning, to the same standard as you do the players when it comes to the conduct policy? You didn't have the same energy when it comes to Dan Snyder. You didn't have the same energy when it came to Robert Kraft or Jerry Jones. You didn't have the same energy for any of those people. And when it comes to the overall ruling of the judge, she also included things that also helped her make the decision to the 6-game suspension, which was equal treatment, progressive discipline, and recent enforcement, as I said before. These are all standards of which the NFL as a whole failed to meet. So to me, it seems as though the NFL had a lack of evidence to prove that Deshaun Watson was guilty or did anything. And I also would like to read a tweet from Albert Breer when he talked about Sue Robinson's 15-page conclusion. He said, based on the 4 cases brought by the NFL, the 5th case was thrown out because the NFL didn't interview the woman. And the NFL interviewed a total of 12 women. So that means out of the 20 plus women who were involved in this situation, only 12 were interviewed by the NFL. But you only brought out 4 cases because the 5th one was thrown out because you didn't even think to interview the woman. It seems to me that the NFL was jumping to conclusions and they were moving off of the public perception of Deshaun Watson. But in a courtroom, feelings and perception don't necessarily matter. It's about what you can prove, and it's about what you can bring to the stand in many cases. Many people, especially Black men, have been falsely accused of crimes and have been thrown in jail based off of perception. So, but I still feel like the Browns, in a sense, are still in a position to where they can have a successful season. So even though he got suspended for 6 games, they're still in a relatively good position because the games of which Deshaun Watson will be missing will be against the Panthers, the Jets, the Steelers, the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Patriots. And in my opinion, with the exception of the Chargers and the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett should be able to come out and win a majority of those games, in my opinion. The first game back for Deshaun will be against the Ravens, and that's where really the uphill march starts. So I believe that there's still somewhat room for him, for the Browns and him to be successful.
Because this took place in a court of law, I think that the NFL had the burden of proof, especially because they were trying to prosecute in this case, and so therefore you have to bring a lot more than just, well, this woman said this. It's kind of hard because only 2 people really know what happened in those rooms, Deshaun and the woman. And outside of that, we don't have much other proof that we're going to be able to find unless we have security cameras in any of these rooms, which they don't because most of them are in hotel rooms, according to the women. So it's hard for me to like really draw a conclusion then because, again, we basically just have 2 sets of testimony that we're going off of. Now, am I surprised that Deshaun got 6 games? No, because that's kind of the precedent, as DeAndre was saying, that's been set. Zeke Elliott got 6 games for potentially punching a woman out. Kareem Hunt got 8 games for being on video, punt kicking a woman like he was Randy Orton. And I mean, the NFL has always taken drug problems and drug suspensions more seriously than domestic violence. Why? I don't know. I've never understood why they do this anyway. I feel like every single time somebody gets suspended in the NFL, there's always some kind of complaint coming down on it. I'm with you guys in that he technically was suspended for a year, so I can get why another year would kind of seem egregious. But I also think, again, it was a chance for the NFL to really kind of set an example and say, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to be a little bit more stricter when it comes to this. And one thing I want to touch on that you said, Cam, was I think the NFL is doing this so that, women that are outraged out there, they'll look like they're standing up for it. That's what the NFL always does. If the NFL had their choice, they would pay these women to shut up, they would disappear, and nobody would get suspended because they don't want to suspend Deshaun Watson for 6 games. They want Deshaun Watson on the field because Deshaun Watson now is a nationally known player. But because, you've got to manage a lot of this stuff, and because you do have to, punish your employees who break the law, potentially, allegedly, you have to do something. So I'm not surprised that he only got 6 games. I feel like, 10 might have been good. The only thing that annoys me is when people try to compare it to the Calvin Ridley suspension, because it's completely different. I get, it sounds bad because Calvin Ridley was, gambling on games, and Deshaun Watson potentially, assaulted a bunch of women. The first thing that you're told anytime you enter a pro locker room is do not bet on this sport ever, 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 ever. Pete Rose is the hits leader in Major League Baseball, one of the top 5 hitters of all time. He is not in the Hall of Fame because he is banned from baseball because he was betting on games he managed. And we don't even know if he was betting on the team that he was managing, if he was betting for his team and banking on himself to try to make a little extra cash. I've never really seen that reported. So that's why the Calvin Ridley suspension holds up, and it shouldn't be compared to Deshaun. Either way, like I said, we don't know exactly what happened. We only have the testimony. The fact that it was so many women, I think lends a little bit of credibility to it. But I get what y'all are saying with he was suspended for a year basically already. I just think the NFL sucks in general with this kind of stuff, and I wasn't going to be surprised. Like regardless, they're relatively incompetent at their jobs.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably one of the worst leagues in dealing with any type of matter. They definitely set the bar extremely low. So I hope the Ben Roethlisberger thing still bothers me just a little bit. The fact that he only got 4.
Yeah.
So I'm very optimistic. Go ahead.
So Ben Roethlisberger only got 4. The other thing is, the only people that keep that alive are people that make fun of him memes on the internet.
Right. Like, people forgot it happened.
Nobody mentioned. So give it 2 years. I promise you, no one will mention this about Deshaun Watson.
Are you sure though?
I'm pretty sure. I know the way this works because I didn't know that Karl Malone impregnated a 13-year-old until like 2-3 years ago. And I've read copious amounts of articles that mention Karl Malone, and that's never mentioned.
But I mean, we're in 2022 now. That happened so long ago. I'm think of something more recent. You think what Michael Vick does? No one has forgotten about that Michael Vick dog situation. No one has forgotten about that. And then in times like this where things are
he's one of the few guys where he actually served a punishment.
Right. I mean,
he was found guilty. So
right. That's why I think this rule is even crazy because he's found not guilty.
He was found not guilty by the grand jury chose not to press charges because, like I said, it's a he said, she said. Deshaun's going to say no. The women's going to say yes. And that's really all they have. They can prove that the appointment happened. They can't necessarily prove what happened in there.
I think in this atmosphere of media, an act like this and a suspension like this is going to be put in place for a minute. People are not going to just easily forget as much as back then. That's my only point with the media these days. I think it'll be harder for it to go away. You look at some R&B or rap artists. Once they get into a situation like that, it never goes away. So I feel like you have to have the same precedent with someone who is as big of a star as Deshaun Watson.
I mean, James Charles has messaged like multiple 16-year-olds on Instagram, and he still has like 30 million subscribers and his own makeup line, and it's not really mentioned, but I mean, I guess that's a whole nother area. I don't know. I'm a little cynical in that I believe the NFL's PR machine is going to get underway the moment he gets back on the field, and they're going to scrub this all up to the point where people start remembering what we used to think about him, which is, he's a good, relatively good, down-to-earth kid, as opposed to, I don't even know what adjective to use for that man.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about the NFL appealing Deshaun Watson's 6-game suspension?
I think they're mad that they didn't have the authority themselves. I think they don't want it to come off as like they were complacent while somebody else did their job for them. So now they're attempting to make it look like they're trying to crack down on SA when, I mean, they spent a whole year investigating it.
If I didn't love watching football, I would not watch NFL. Like literally,
XFL.
If I didn't love the sport as much as I did, I would not watch the NFL personally.
You got the XFL coming back. You can always watch that.
That's gonna wrap up our episode, guys. Do you have anything to say?
Do I have it? Not really, other than watch out for those Atlanta Braves about to be back-to-back World Series champions. Coming. Fear to A. Yeah, well, we can't do that. That'll get you canceled quick, Kim.
Yandra, you got anything?
Like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time we upload, you guys. And leave a take. If you guys have or if you guys are passionate about something and you want to make a take, send it to us and we'll respond to you guys.
And dropping every other week because I feel like it gives you guys more time to completely digest and more time for you to watch the video. I feel like when we was dropping every week, it kind of mixed you guys up a little bit. So we're gonna let you breathe on it. You know what I'm saying? Let it marinate, and then we'll drop again. And
Well, one more thing. I got one more thing. Tell them where you got the shirt from. You know what I'm saying? It looks so nice. I just want you to tell them where you got it from.
This is another Andre J product. You know what I'm saying? If you was messing with the finals, if you was repping it hard, you know what I'm saying? Go get you a shirt. That's gonna help our episode. Takeover out.
Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass, we coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double.